kid.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing, pre-cool villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos, by the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast a marlow or two, and prepare to hear the legend of the straight chillin' crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another symphonic episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name's Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 361, recorded Monday, March 7th, 2022. Tonight, we're going to be discussing Nosferatu from 1922. This movie is 100 years old this month. Before we tackle that titan, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy, Randu. How do? Randu.
It do well. How are you?
Randu do well.
Randu well. Randu very well.
I like our black and white theme we have going on.
Oh yeah, that was well thought out, far in advance of
So far,
us sitting
so far
down
in
to
advance.
record.
Zero panic attacks involved. I promise you that. Last but
Check
not
it
least,
out on YouTube.
on the YouTube. Yeah. Last but not least, calling in from Southern Korea, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
What's up? It is your boy Ratu Stains. Hail Ratu Stains.
Racist.
That accent is so spot on. I
It's
love
so good.
it. Was that supposed to be Transylvanian? Was it supposed to be a German accent? Was it?
It was supposed to be a silent film accent.
Pick your area. Yeah.
That's what all people sound like on silent films. You just can't hear them.
Mm-hmm.
The area that you wish. Oh boys. Oh boys. This is like, I don't know. This is like a classic among classics, you know?
Oh yeah.
It's got a lot of clout.
This is our
Pretty-
second 100th celebration episode that
Yeah.
we've done.
Yeah.
That's nuts that we're getting to the point where movies, like multiple movies, are turning 100 and we're covering them. That's nuts.
Yep. Full length too. Yeah. Like what's interesting is that these are the two that we've done now are both public domain, and eventually that well is going to run dry. That's
Real.
fucked up.
That's weird. Yeah.
Anyway,
True.
yeah, Nosferatu, man.
Yeah. Before we get into it, let's hit up some housekeeping real quick. So we last time we recorded, we did not have the winner of the March poll pick yet. But it did work out to be the Beyond one. So we'll be talking about that
Whoa.
soon. Yeah.
No, Tom Cruise Stains. He fell behind.
No, Tom Cruise could not clutch it, which is
That's not the interview I want to see
fine.
with Tom Cruise.
It's-
I only want to see the Oprah interview.
We should cover that.
Yeah, that's the real horror
horrors.
film we need to watch.
Also horror. Yeah. That does mean we got a brand new poll pick posted on our Patreon website. Our April poll pick is up there. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this April. The theme for April is Kids on Bikes, and the three movies to vote between are Super 8, Attack the Block, and Turbo Kid.
Whoa, Bob. How are those numbers looking in the first week of March?
First week, Turbo Kid is winning, then Attack the Block, and Super 8 is not too far behind, but definitely behind.
All right, getting ready for some warmer weather, I see.
I'm trying to.
Dusting
My
off.
God.
Yeah.
Dusting off those Schwinns, baby.
I don't know about
ready
for
for
you
it.
guys, but here around the DC area, it was unseasonably warm today, and tomorrow it will be very cold. So it's a
my-
weird bag here.
My
right
spring seems to start tomorrow because it was in the 20s yesterday
Mm.
morning, and then tomorrow it'll be in the 60s. So yay for
You know,
me.
Might
Speaking
be
of-
a
It was-
tactical error bringing up the weather on our horror podcast. but
It's true. It's 85 degrees in Florida.
What?
Shut
Yeah.
up. Get out of here.
Yeah, it's not great. Not ideal. Get your votes in before the end of March, and we'll see what we're talking about this April. Another reminder, we dropped a brand new mini cast on our Patreon website last Friday. I was talking about a brand new Shudder original called Scary of the 61st. That is, like I said, it's on Patreon. We also have a pretty large back catalog of mini casts that are exclusive to Patreon. If you support us at the $10 level or above, you get access to all of those. We got over 60 on there now, and you can listen to all of those episodes on your podcatcher of choice, which is very convenient.
Bob, all about your boy Epstein now.
Yeah, boy.
All about negative. Negative. Not all
You know,
about.
Of all the notable things about that particular movie, perhaps the one that I most grapple with is that I will never, ever be able to remember the title correctly. That will never happen.
It's not
That
a
is the
good
most
title.
confounding title I
Yeah.
have ever seen. And that includes the mixed up zombies, et cetera, which at least had a trollish point of getting in the Guinness Book
Yeah.
of World Records.
I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's all we got for. Actually, we're gonna be reopening the U pick.
Oh yeah.
It's already like
Damn.
getting near the end of the first quarter of the year, anyways. So mark your calendars. If you guys are first-time listeners, this is the only way that you can pick a movie outright for us to review on the show. The You Pick the Flick tier on Patreon is going to reopen on Sunday, March 27th at an undisclosed time. There are also only 5 spots available per quarter. So you're just going to have to check our Patreon website throughout the day on Sunday, March 27th to see when that tier opens up and try and grab one. Yeah.
It's got a death curse.
You know what? We already got past the worst part of the year where we're heading towards Halloween, but we're past Christmas. So
Yeah,
Are,
it's true.
are we past it? Past the worst part of the year?
well, yeah, I mean like January, February, like once Christmas is finished and it's just like cold and bleak, but now
Just
we're
like,
heading
okay.
towards Halloween. We're like
Late
chugging
stage
along.
winter. Oh, don't worry. Like all seasons are all bets are off on seasons these days. So
Sort of.
That's
we'll
fair.
probably get a nice snow in July.
That is fair.
A
That's
nuclear snow.
Mm,
You're going to Camp Blood, ain't you?
more to come on World Wars in a minute.
yeah. People
that's
come
all
to
we
us for
got for
hard-hitting world
Patreon.
events.
We do have one more thing I said I was going to announce on this episode. We've been promoting a raffle in which if you just left us a rating and a review on iTunes, you would be automatically entered into this raffle. And I do have the distinct pleasure in announcing the winner of that, who is none other than G Baby. Congratulations.
Whoa, damn.
G Baby.
Shit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lucky ass G
Bravo.
baby. Damn. Shouts
The
out.
game is over.
Thanks to everyone
What
who
did he
left
win?
those
What did
review.
he win,
Oh, yeah.
Tony?
A box of fresh Florida air coming right at
What
you.
the fuck?
Dude, you tease, but I mean that shit sells for about $50 a can.
And air.
I
Yes,
can't imagine
that
why.
shit exists.
People out here huffing Florida air. It's just like a really light soup.
Basically, yeah.
Oh,
Keep your eyes on the mailbox, there,
Swampy
G baby.
soup.
You'll have some toys coming at you, some dilders perhaps with Straight Chillin' logos on the tip.
Some grinding.
Yeah, that too. I think that's all I got. Do you guys have anything you want to touch on?
What is none of your business?
Yes.
I'm clean.
All right.
Clean as a whistle. Sharp
I
as a pencil.
suppose so is our house.
This house is clean.
Oh, yes. All right, let's get into the main event. We're talking about Nosferatu from 1922, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Bob, do you have this box?
I do have this box. Yeah.
Which box
What?
do you have?
Which of the billions?
Yeah.
So Kino Classics put out a really nice 2-disc deluxe remastered edition of this movie.
Okay.
It's got yeah, well, one of the discs has a copy with the original like German intertitles, and then it's got English subtitles for you to read. And then there's another version where they just replace the German intertitles with English, so they're not, you don't have like the entire screen just filled with words.
European style.
Gotcha. We
But
should put
It
out a
seems like
straight
something that could
chilling
fit on one
Nosferatu.
disc, if I would say so myself.
Well, there's more shit, Randy, and yes, you're right, Justin.
Okay.
Yeah, there's like an hour-long documentary on this as well. They did like an HD remaster from an archival 35 millimeter print of the movie, and they also like restored what they anticipate would be the original score that was played at the time of the film's release, so you can listen to like the original music and shit when you're watching this. So they did like a really great job restoring it. I do recommend picking it up if that's of interest to you, and it's also it's fairly affordable. You can probably find it for like $15-20. But also it's like on YouTube, it's everywhere because it's a public domain, like Randy mentioned, so you can find it for sure.
They didn't release the DJ Spooky version.
What?
No, that was Caligari.
I
That
know.
shit.
They had like
not
the
the-
new
I-
soundtrack.
This is
They
okay. Go ahead, Bob.
there was a version released in the 90s where Typo Negative had like
I was
a
just gonna
soundtrack.
bring that up.
Yeah.
That was the
Um,
first time I watched this movie. Was on a Typo Negative bootleg fucking thing off of
Damn.
eBay.
Damn.
Hell yeah. Yeah, so this movie, 1922, with a runtime of 1 hour and 34 minutes, directed by F.W. Murnau, written by Henrik Galen, and obviously
F.W. Murnau.
If Dib. This is definitely,
We just call him W.
we don't. This is based on our boy Bram Stoker's classic novel Dracula. Stars Max Schreck, Alexander Granich, Gustav von Wagenheim, and other wonderful German names as well. Plot synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. Vampire Count Orlok expresses interest in a new residence, and real estate agent Hunter's wife. Wow. Look at that.
And here
Gentlemen!
I just retired. That means big money bump. So,
Just retired.
what a shame.
Gentlemen, had you seen this movie before? And would you recommend people check it out? Randy, kick us off.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, I've seen this movie. God, it has to be closing in on 10 times over the years,
Damn.
because there was a stretch of time in high school where I was, not even high school, probably middle school to early high school, where I was not quite young enough to want to go trick or treating, but I also wasn't quite old enough to be like going to any like kick-ass parties or anything like that, or just having a lot to do. So this would come on, this and Vampire would come on, and Halloween 4 and 5 would come on AMC's whatever they call that block of television. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
Like every year, and
Fear Fest?
Nosferatu,
Maybe.
it was Fear Fest. I can't. I'm blanking hard on it, but so yeah, I would watch this. I think they would play it like typically around midnight or whatever, sort of close out the night with it, and I made a tradition of doing that for a little bit. And I also, like I said, got the Typo Negative cut when I was freshly into horror, freshly into eBay, as it turns out. And yeah, that was not ideal for me because I did not know who Typo Negative were, or I did not know what edition I was really purchasing. And when I got it and it was filled with metal music, little Randy, who liked Billy Joel, was not impressed. My Weird Al Yankovic
Billy.
ears were not prepared.
That is very strange.
So yeah, but yes, I've seen it. And, to recommend, yes, absolutely. This is the granddaddy. So you got to pay homage to the granddaddy.
You got to pay your granddaddy. Juice, what about you?
I had never seen this fully all the way through. It's got a lot of infamous scenes and things that I had seen, but I never just sat down and watched it from beginning to end. And I think just in general, silent films come with a bit of a caveat because they're old and they're silent and they're long and it's hard for like a lot of people to pay attention. I struggled a little bit getting through this. I've now reviewed 3 silent films, I believe.
Maybe I'm
from
stupid.
maybe I am from this era, and I just don't think like it's easy for me to just sit through one completely. I usually take it in 2, maybe 3 chunks, 45 to 30 minutes. But I mean, it's historical, it's iconic. So much of what we know about vampires, especially in like vampire films and stuff like that, comes from this. You're gonna know the image of Nosferatu, and it's good to know kind of where these things came from. And one of the benefits I think of this one is that it's a familiar story, you know. So even if you have a hard time following along with silent films, you know, you've probably seen some kind of iteration of Dracula, and this sticks fairly close to that general outline, and so it's pretty easy to follow along in that, you know, sense. So I would recommend for like historical value and, you know, how big and iconic this film is, but just know that you might have to take it, you know, in chunks like I did. Bob, how about you? Would you recommend Nosferatu?
Nosferatu. Yes, I would. I'd seen this once prior when I was probably high school age. I may have watched it with you, Randy. I'm not totally sure.
Possibly.
But I definitely was, you know, in and out, like wasn't giving it my full attention for sure. Because, you know, to Justin's point, people who are used to watching modern films might find this to be a bit of a struggle to pay attention to, especially for like a fucking teenage kid in high school. It just it's a little slow. The way the actors are portraying themselves on screen are done so in a way that's like, it reminds me of like theatrical acting. You know, they have to like over express because they can't use their voice. They got to like show their faces and be like very over expressive, I think. So it's got some like corniness to it in that way. And also I think this story is so damn familiar that it also makes it difficult to pay attention to, because you know all of the beats as they're happening. You're just like, yep, I know. But that just is because this movie is as influential as it is. Like it like, you know, it's the granddaddy, like Randy said. It's influenced damn near every vampire movie that's come after it, and that's why it's so familiar to us. Definitely recommend though, if you have not seen it, it is sort of mandatory viewing for horror movie fans. Yes, Randy.
I'm going to add to this that, like, you know, if you want to watch this, I think that the ideal situation for a modern eye is to watch it in a theater, and preferably a theater that is doing a live score, be it the original live score or some other variation, which there's hundreds and hundreds of, you know, examples of this that go on with not just this film, but all silent films. I'm a big proponent for watching silent films with crazy modern music over it. But in general, like, I think that if I was to watch this on the big screen, a lot of what punch is taken away from it by being the age that it is, the familiar story that it is, would probably land better if there's no direct distractions. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah. And to your point, that is actually happening. I cannot remember where, but there's something called Nosferatu Fest happening this year in celebration of this movie being 100 years old. Give that a Google if you're interested in watching this movie live. I can't remember what city's hosting it, but it is happening.
nice.
So yeah, that sounds like a pretty solid recommendation from the three of us. So let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning, and we'll get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
Hey Bob, did you just keep your plot synopsis from Stokers Dracula that we covered about a year and a half ago?
I kept the synopsis from Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. I'm just gonna read that again. Okay.
Dude,
Is that cool?
yeah.
Sweet.
Man, this is Year of the Vampire, isn't it? Year of the Bat.
I mean,
For straight chilling.
Due for a resurgence after being pretty well
Twilighted
territory in the 2000s.
Yeah, Twilight.
We got Twilight for some time.
Yeah.
Even worse than Gaslit. I got it. I got it here.
All right,
Let me
Bob,
blast through this.
hit me with
it's
it.
fairly short.
Skip to the end.
So in 1838, in the fictional town of Visberg, Germany, Thomas Hutter is sent to Transylvania to sell some real estate to Count Orlok. Along the way, he mentions Orlok's name, and the townsfolk warn him not to go. They say there's a werewolf on the prowl. Hutter then conveniently finds and reads a book called Of Vampires, Phantoms, and the Seven Deadly Sins, in which he finds out exactly what a vampire is. He finally arrives at Count Orlok's castle. He cuts his finger with a knife. Orlok tries to suck the blood, but Hutter recoils. Hutter then wakes up the following morning with 2 punctures on his neck, to which he contributes 2 mosquito bites. That night, Orlok signs the documents purchasing the home in Wisberg, and he notices a picture of Hutter's wife. He says she has a lovely neck. Later, Orlok descends upon Hutter in his room. His wife, Ellen, has a vision of this while she's sleeping. She also walks along the edge of her balcony's railing in a trance, causing her friend to call a doctor. The next morning, Hutter explores the castle and finds Orlok sleeping in a coffin. He then sees Count Orlok pack up several coffins full of dirt, get in one himself, and then ride off. Orlok then boards a ship, kills off all the sailors and the captain, and then he arrives in Wisberg and moves into the house across the street from Hutter. Hutter also ends up returning to protect his wife. Several rats are then found on the ship and invade the town. The locals start dying, and their deaths are contributed to the plague. Ellen reads the vampire book against Hunter's wishes and finds out a vampire can only be stopped by a pure-hearted woman who distracts the vampire with her beauty, causing him to stay out long enough to be exposed to sunlight. She opens her window and invites Orlok in. Hutter then runs out to fetch the physician while the Count sneaks in and sucks Ellen's blood. Orlok is then mesmerized by Ellen's beauty, causing him to be exposed by sunlight through an open window, and he vanishes in a plume of smoke. Roll credits.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
Arrivederci, baby.
baby.
this movie has like a shitload of like historical context and stuff. And like I know we typically save a lot of the trivia for the very end, but I'm gonna like sprinkle it throughout the conversation, I think, because it would just like make the conversation a little more enriched, I believe, if we don't save it all for the end, especially for a movie that's 100 years old.
Whoa, our opinions aren't good enough for you anymore, Bob?
They're
They're good enough
aren't even
for
good
me.
enough for us. No, I think I think that's a good idea, because honestly, like you said earlier, like this is such a familiar story. Even without having seen this film, you've seen this film,
Yeah.
So like
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
the story front to back. You know who's standing in for who, and for the most part, whatever changes they make become the standard changes that they make to Stoker's novel typically.
I wanted to ask Justin and Randy, you may have read the book too, I'm not sure, but I know Juice, you mentioned reading Bram Stoker's Dracula before, right?
Yeah, I've read it several times, at least 2 or 3.
Really?
I'm unfamiliar with it, but like offhand, do you recall any like glaring differences between that and this film?
Yeah, sure. There's the look of him in the book. It's more close to like the Bram Stoker's one, where he starts off like old and decrepit, and then as he's feeding on him secretly, he becomes like normal looking or whatever, youthful, good looking even, maybe. There is let's see, the sunlight. I think this is the movie that kind of set the idea of vampires being killed by sunlight, because in Dracula, he's like weakened by it, but he's weakened by a lot of things. Like they do stick with the whole dirt idea, like you need to keep your dirt around and shit like that. But in the other one, he's not killed by sunlight. Like it doesn't burst him into flames or burn his skin or anything like that. It's just his powers.
Like the most basic camera trick ever.
Those are the two. I did like that they focused a little more on the boat ride, because that is a little more prevalent in the book. The idea of like the pestilence and them like chasing the guy around. We got a little Halloween kills in this. I was like, what the fuck? That I don't think that took place, and I can't remember about the involvement of the real estate agent. Like, I don't think that was as prevalent. And in the other one, you know, Van Helsing is more prevalent. It's kind of like with Bram Stoker's one where there's no like real or not loose, the like friend or whatever of Jonathan's wife. I'm mixing up all the names. Y'all know what I'm talking about when we cover Bram Stoker. Like, she's got a friend. There's no friend in this movie.
Lucy or whatever.
Is it Lucy? I mix up the two
so.
names. So there's no friend who's taken over by Dracula at first in the book or whatever, and then it moves on to Jonathan's wife and all that stuff. So yeah, those are some of the big differences. Yeah,
you know, some of those people I think that character kind of exists in the, I forget the name, but the Neighbors or whatever. But like they have a few scenes in this that seem like they're included. They don't really go anywhere. They don't really set anything up. They don't really do a whole lot, like on the great basis of the actual story being told. But, and I'm not sure of this, but it seems like probably characters from the book that they just wanted to be in there, and they just got trimmed down to the point where,
like the Van Helsing guy or whatever.
Yeah, like the Van Helsing, the Venus flytrap stuff, the Neighbors, like those sorts of things are obviously like big parts of, or in Van Helsing's case, certainly big parts of the original story that just don't have the time or wherewithal to deal with it in this.
Yeah.
So it kind of like suffers from that in some ways, but if you don't know about those things already, they seem very out of place, even in a movie that.
And even something that was different from Stoker that we covered, and the different that this in the book, if I remember right, it's been at least like 4 or 5 years since I read it, but I'm pretty sure the squad deals with Dracula in London. Like, they go to the house and shit. Okay. Yeah. They don't go back to his castle and whatever. Like, there's no, I don't think they do the whole run around with the real estate agent or whatever. They're just like hunting Dracula in London, which is like cool. I don't know why nobody's doing that, because that's fucking cool. Like, let's hunt Dracula in London. I don't know.
The proliferation of Dracula movies in general is like, I think people are put off to it instantly in terms of filmmaking.
Sure, now, but I mean, we've seen several iterations and nobody really does that, where they're hunting him in London, which is what it is, a twist on it,
which is the only thing people want, like out of a new Dracula movie. Same with like a Godzilla or whatever. Like they want the same but different.
This movie, so Murnau did not purchase the rights to Stoker's book at all. Like, he was just like, you know, I'm gonna make this fucking movie, and it was like so damn similar that Stoker's widow sued Murnau like the day the movie opened, which, you know, she won the case, and they basically were told they had to burn every single copy of the movie in existence. And some of the canisters, I guess, were like smuggled out of Germany, and that's like the only reason we're able to watch the movie today. But basically, her lawsuit, coupled with the fact this movie just like sort of underperformed when it was released, totally bankrupt the production company that was created by the one of the producers of the movie, Albin Grau is his name, who was like he's like a graphic designer, I guess, or like he like storyboarded the whole movie start to finish, and was like intimately involved with the production and stuff, and like he even designed the look of Nosferatu. Like, Murnau didn't do that, Albin did. So like he was like extremely hands-on with it, and he created this production company with the intention to make like horror pictures specifically, and this was the first movie that they made, and it was called Prana. Prana was the name. Prana Film was the name of the production company, which is, in Hindu, Prana means the force of life. But you know, the movie made no money, and the company went bankrupt immediately after release of their first film. But I wanted to like give a little bit of history of like Albin real quick, because he's like sort of a fascinating character.
Is that Albin with a V?
Sorry, Albin with a B. Albin Grau. Last name is Grau. But he is, like I said, he storyboarded the movie. He was also like extremely involved in the occult. So he was part of the Pansophic Lodge, And I guess he eventually like migrated from that over to the Fraternus Saturni, which is just another like occult group, which is apparently still in operation today. He also apparently knew Aleister Crowley like personally, and was just like
Like nothing I'd ever smelled before in my life.
Exactly. But he was like way into the occult. And if you guys recall in Nosferatu, all of the letters that are sent from Nosferatu over to the scapegoat guy,
The real estate agent. Yeah.
Knock. His name is
Knock.
Knock. Yeah.
Mhm.
All the letters that he receives from Nosferatu are basically look like they have like occult symbols scribbled all over them.
Yeah.
Zodiac
was
shit.
Absolutely, yeah. That was directly inspired by Albin's interest in the occult.
Damn. Maybe that's some
love
fucked
that.
up shit. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, super nuts. There's another group called the Oriental Order of the Knights Templar, which Aleister Crowley was all up in. So like Albin was involved in that group as well. He was all over the place, man. I also think that like just like historically, like when this movie was released, like we kind of need to discuss that some as well.
Yeah.
So
sure.
1922 was like 4 years after the conclusion of World War One, I believe, 3 or 4 years. 1918, I think, was the end of World War One. Murnau himself fought in the war. So did Albin Grau. They both fought in the war. Based on what I was reading, Murnau spent 8 solid consecutive months in the trenches, like mid-warfare, and that led to some sort of like kidney.
Christ.
I know that led to some sort of like really terrible kidney issues for him, to where like he had to like have a strict diet, and he couldn't drink alcohol or smoke cigarettes or anything like that. He had to be like live a really clean life afterwards. He
Be healthy. You suck.
He also, so Murnau was a gay man, but he was not openly gay. The quote love of his life actually ended up dying in World War One. And after Albin and Murnau served, they became like extremely anti-war, obviously, because it's terrible war. They hung out with a lot of like extreme left-wing political people and artists, and they made a lot of like left-wing art and stuff together. And their group was called the November Group. So they made a lot of art. Murnau started like painting. He put on like stage plays. He was an actor. He would produce plays. And then he became very interested in film and started making movies. The first 7 movies actually are completely lost to time that he made.
Damn.
You won't be able to watch those. So the first one that you can see is Nosferatu, which was almost lost to time because of the lawsuit.
7 films?
Yeah.
Does anybody know what they were about?
Yes. I don't have them in front of me, but people know all the titles. And there's like a few stills from them, like advertisements and newspapers and shit. So I mean, like you can find out about them, but you just can't watch the movies in their entirety.
Was he involved at all with Faust? Do you know?
Yes.
The Murnau Faust. That makes If he was responsible for the visuals and Nosferatu, then I feel like Faust was like, I've been getting credit to Murnau for that look of that thing, which is my favorite silent film.
So you mean Albin Grau specifically? That I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay, that's what I was asking. Murnau, I know, directed it. It was his last film.
Right. Yeah.
But whoever did that was amazing, and you can definitely see the connective tissue between the two. So if I guess it stands to reason that Albin might have had a hand in that, or at least inspired it in some way.
Probably, yeah.
Both these guys look so German.
They are.
They just look like what you would imagine.
Man, it's like they're bred there or something.
Yeah. Regarding like Murnau, he was also, like I said, he was gay. He died in 1931 at the age of 42, and he was being driven by a 14-year-old Filipino servant, and there was rumors circulating that they were having sex at the time of the car accident, somehow, some way, I'm not sure. So again, we have this sort of like unfortunate theme of movies we're discussing this year, where the directors are having relations with underage boys for some
Oh,
reason.
no.
This is
Oh shit! I didn't realize. I didn't catch the underage part.
yeah,
Fuck.
14-year-old.
Wait, who was
unfortunately.
this? The director?
Yeah, Murnau, the director. Yeah,
Damn.
it was rumored. I mean, there was
Damn
not
it.
hard evidence, but there were 2 other people in the vehicle that did not die. So I assume they talked about whatever was going on.
Oh, the director died in it?
Yeah, died in a car accident.
Oh, god damn.
In Santa Barbara, weirdly.
Yeah. Ooh, I didn't know that it was in Santa Barbara. No shit.
According to Wikipedia.
Damn.
Interesting.
So you know it's right.
You know it. I will add that a lot of this information I got from the documentary on the disc. I also read a couple articles online that I'll cite as they come up. But there's just like so much shit to dissect in this movie. But we can like take a break and talk about some of the movie before I just
Dude, yeah,
keep
and
rambling.
One of the interesting things to me about this movie, and I'm like, this is kind of related to the historical aspect as well, the context of this movie, aside from the World War I thing that was obviously going on, but like what was more obvious to me, because it's directly addressed in this movie, is addressing plague and disease. Like the entire,
yeah.
like I just on a quick search, like that is a clear line that is drawn by a lot of critics, that that Nosferatu, this version of Dracula, is heavily enmeshed with the idea of diseases and plague and that sort of thing. And this is only 10 years after the Spanish, whatever it is, like the plague of
Inquisition.
1912 or whatever.
Spanish flu or
Spanish flu,
influenza.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
Whatever. Oh, I can't remember. I don't know much about it, obviously, except because of what's going on right now. So it's just kind of fucking weird that it's 100-year anniversary and everybody's paying a lot of attention to it now. On the heels of our own pandemic. And, like you can see a lot of that. Justin, in the original Dracula novel, I've only read like the first few chapters. I gave up on it because I'm illiterate. But do they deal with like, is that like a prevalent theme, would you say?
I don't think so. Not that I remember. Oh, I remember he has like a certain influence over animals, obviously, because they talk about the wolves and the like woods but on the boat, like there's a fog that surrounds the boat when he travels and stuff like that. But I don't think, like, I think when he goes to London, I think he's just feeding on people. I don't think it's this plague that like affects everyone. Like that was an interesting twist, but like I said, it's been 4 or 5 years, but I don't think that was a part of it. Maybe a certain thing with rats, maybe because I remember he controls animals or has influence on them, but I don't think there was this whole plague thing going on.
So in context of this movie, it's unclear, with the exception of like one of the interstitial like title screens. So like as he rolls up, you see all the rats get off the boat, and you do think, oh, plague, like they are literally, these rats are carrying the plague, and he is also feeding on people. But they show one of those cards that says plague at the very top, and there's like a solid paragraph that explains everything. And in that text, it says that every single victim of the quote plague had 2 mysterious little bites on their necks. So I think he's actually feeding on everybody, and the rats are there just sort of by like happenstance. I don't think they actually do carry the plague in context of this movie, though.
Maybe. To me, like I've always read anyway, like there's not a lot of movies that depict this, and this movie doesn't directly, but that, aside from turning into bats and stuff, the standard, that where vampires are also, they can transmogrify into other things, including rats. So to me, it was like, that is, that's him in another form. This batch of rats is just another trick of his. And also, like, speaking to the plague thing, they specifically say that the dirt that he's buried in is the plague infested remains of all those who died in the plague, something like that. He was buried, is the dirt he was buried in, and it's plague infested. They specifically bring that up. So
you're right.
The idea that the rats are there, maybe the rats feed on, I don't know, but like there's certainly a connection between the two. Rats in the real world are obviously a sign of the plague, the bubonic plague anyway. And so like it's a clear line they're drawing. It couldn't be clearer, really. And to me, I think that's really interesting because the reason I asked that, Justin, is because I wasn't sure if that was like a unique to this film. It was something that was unique to this film or not. But I don't remember seeing it in any other film.
Yeah, I was
Dracula
just
or
trying to
any
go
other
through it
adaptation.
again, and it actually seems like the Stroker one we covered last is actually they do actually go back to Romania to hunt him. I don't remember that in the book, but I've seen some of this. But no, it doesn't say anything. I want to read the synopsis real quick of the book, and it doesn't say anything about plague. It's more it's almost just
I
like
feel
the
like-
movie that they made with old Keanu
Yeah.
and whatnot.
What year was that? That Dracula novel?
Oh, the Dracula novel. Let me see. It came out. I had it just pulled up. I just put it away. 1897. God damn.
So yeah, I mean, it's possible that they were using a metaphor for that as well. So I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like it's not divine. It's not directly stated in anything else besides this movie anyway.
I do like the idea that the plague is a metaphor for Dracula or Nosferatu, Count Orlok,
The other way
whatever you call
around.
him. Yeah, well, yeah, it's like one and the same. It's like he is death, like the embodiment of death. Like he
Mhm.
brings just this like blanket of death over this town.
Yeah.
Whether he brings like an actual plague or if he's just like sucking everybody's blood in rat form or whatever it is.
Well,
I just like that idea.
I like that
I do
idea too. And I'm sorry if y'all mentioned this. I was trying to read the plot synopsis of Dracula, but just to kind of tie into that, his just general the change of the plague, but also his general look. Okay, this dude,
Mhm.
this iconic looking vampire, he's not the sexy vampire, which even is included, in Dracula. A lot of his victims in the book of Dracula are women, and he's hypnotizing them. He's coming into their bedrooms at night, whatnot, sucking their blood.
He's climbing through your windows.
It's a
he's
lot more
snatching your
like
people up.
sensual. This dude is not sensual. Fucking
No.
Count
Speak for
Orlok or whatever.
yourself.
He looks not normal. And I want to touch on too, under Bob's recommendation, I did watch the 1979 version, and even that iteration looks amazing, but very true to this form, which it makes me super excited for a Robert Eggers version, because seeing how that one could be bought from the 20s to the 70s in such a good way, I'm like, this could totally continue on. And so this idea of a vampire, it makes the idea of immortality, especially in that 1979 version, a lot more daunting. This creature, he doesn't look happy, he doesn't look healthy, he barely looks human in any kind of way. And so it really blurs this idea of man and monster, and then tying that to this pestilence, drives it even further. Like, you can't even occupy a space without everything around you. Potentially, the way they explain it, it could just be him feeding, like we said, but you can't even occupy this space without just everything going to shit. Kind of gives it a much different take than the vampire who's just living this lavish life,
dead and loving it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, almost like this thing to almost kind of want in some people. Oh, I could live forever. Oh, what's the worst thing? I can't go out at night, but you're fucking young and beautiful forever. And it's a much it's a darker
siren
take.
song. And like that whole, like you said, like people that like familiars
on the
and
mic,
things like
on
that.
the mic, Randy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, people like familiars and things like that, they became sort of canonical to like Dracula films or just vampire films in general. And that sort of thinking is like in a lot of them, I feel like they do briefly just be like, oh, not what I bargained for, sort of thing. You know what I mean? More than I bargained for. Oh shit, I get to live forever, but I have this horrible, insatiable thing. And a few, like at least one thing, and I kind of want to spoiler alert this, because it involves a show, a Netflix show that came out recently,
What's the name of the show?
I'm hesitating.
Oh,
Midnight Mass is the name of the show.
Yeah.
If you don't want this spoiled for you, then skip ahead a few minutes.
Gotcha.
But yeah, in that show, we have the exact play out of the situation you're describing, which I think is like one of the best parts of the show, which is that our presumed lead through the first half of the show becomes a vampire, becomes like he has his blood sucked, he's turned into a vampire, like conned into it by this like skeevy guy or whatever. And rather than live that way and become a monster, he chooses to self-immolate and he like face the sunrise as himself and then just go out rather than like, live an eternity being a monster. And I think that's like the most interesting thing about a vampire, about a Dracula tale. Like, I mean, if you're gonna go in that route, I feel like a version of this film that focuses on that is a brilliant idea. That plus like, and you could still like the plague thing is sadly very relevant. I think that Eggers, of all people, might be the person that shies away from that, except that it is in the original. I don't think he's going for political relevance, but he is going to go for correctness to the original spirit of
especially
the
to name
film.
it Nosferatu, to say I'm doing a remake of the original Nosferatu film, like that's and which is interesting because then in the 70s version everybody's name switches back, and that's what I would be curious about, where they're calling him Dracula, it's Jonathan, it's Mina, it's Lucy, all those people. So I would be curious to see like, okay, what does a remake of the original Nosferatu film look like? Is it in Germany? Is it like, what are we working with here? It's
I don't know.
Treating it as this separate thing, which I think is curious because it is so directly tied into Dracula, but it stands on its own because of these significant changes. Like this character of Nosferatu is so iconic, and iconic for different reasons. Like I know because he was public domain, he showed up in SpongeBob at one point, and that was a lot of kids of that generation's introduction to Nosferatu. He's in this like 2-second clip of SpongeBob where they do it as this crazy joke, but because he's so disturbing, there it is.
Wow.
But because he's of his distinct look, because of that stuck in the minds of an entire generation just from that 2-second clip, which would not happen if you just took any other iteration of Dracula. I know we have the image of Dracula,
man, like
with the
Lugosi
guy with the
Dracula.
pointed...
I think that Lugosi is still like the vision of Dracula, but this is because it's named different. It's like you have two different icons entirely.
That's what I'm
saying.
yeah,
not just because they're
saying.
He definitely stands on his own on a visual iconic level, despite having the same story beats throughout the whole thing, almost an identical story.
Mm-hmm.
The point of having been sued out of existence almost.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, I'm excited to see anything that Eggers does, but I think like he's been wanting to make a Nosferatu movie for a few years, and it's like obviously the perfect time to make one now, unfortunately, because like the themes are more relatable than they have been in quite some time. Like there were a couple bits of text that popped up throughout this movie. One says, "Fear lurked in every corner of town. Who was still healthy? Who was sick?" Like, which is insanely relatable. And even more so, there's another one that said, "The town was paralyzed. They were looking for a scapegoat. They chose Knock." And I was like, replace that with Fauci, and
I was
here
just
we
gonna
are.
say,
Like, it's just like it's crazy relatable to present day. But I also think like that idea of the plague, like we mentioned Spanish flu was definitely a thing that I'm sure was influential in making of this movie, but also like more relating to World War I, and like knowing that filmmakers they both fought in World War I, like the sort of the foreign entity coming to your town and like bringing death upon you and your city.
True, yeah.
Is like also I think very influential in the themes of this movie. So I mean I think it's like kind of a double-edged sword in a way, which hopefully we won't be able to relate to the second edge of that sword.
Because there's like very much in Dracula and like in the original story to some extent, like there's some racial shit going on, like some fear of foreigners, fear of invasion, that sort of thing, like Transylvania, like even
But
fucking Bela Lugosi wears a Star of David around his fucking neck. Like,
to be fair, some touches though that they did to even the people in his the scene of Jonathan, or well, I'm gonna call him Jonathan Butter or whatever. Dude, his name looked like Butters anytime it fucking showed up on the text that they used. I was like, he's Butter.
Yeah, it was tough. The Gothic text was not easy to read.
But even when he goes to, it was a nice scene where he goes to the kind of tavern or whatever, and they're like, what? No, don't go up there. So I mean, to be fair, yeah, I mean, obviously there's this, this diseased person is coming in and infecting everybody and causing chaos in a town, but even the people where he's from are scared of him.
I wanted to like pose the question, that's sort of like the earliest instance of a harbinger that I know of anyways. Maybe there's an earlier one, there probably is, but like when I saw that, I was like, that's such a cool like horror trope that's in like damn near every horror movie now, and like, to see it in 1922 was kind of neat. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think that's honestly, I think that's been done probably since like fucking Brothers Grimm or some shit, like where you have somebody who like, at least like your grandmother warns you, don't go into the woods at night.
Fair,
like shit, like there's always
Granny
some version of that.
harbinger.
But like the going to a new place, running into somebody there who warns you, and then going deeper into that place against their wishes. Yeah, I think there is definitely some connective tissue, at least in the filmmaking world, between that and because every Dracula for a lot of years did the same thing. Like,
yeah. I speaking of like some of the racism like depicted in this movie, I when watching this, did you guys pick up on any sort of like anti-Semitic imagery or themes or anything like that?
I wondered if the exaggerated features, because you look at some, I mean, now this was, 10 to 15 years later when Nazis were putting out the propagandas, but they were literally depicting, Jewish people as rats, or with the elongated features and stuff like that. I mean, just to make this guy look like a monster, he has animalistic features, but because, I'm aware of the history of all that, of course those kind of things pop into my mind, like, oh, I don't know, so that was the only thing that kind of popped in my mind. But it's hard because the Nazis are trying to dehumanize Jewish people, giving them animalistic features or just giving them exaggerated features and propaganda and stuff like that. So I was like, well, maybe.
Yeah, it's tough to say if that's even true, though, because this is far enough in advance to where like that propaganda may have been formatted around what people found scary at the time, which aside from Foreigners was a monster movie, like, or like, so like these this iconic creature who has these particular features that they can play and like, okay, you want to make somebody in a culture like that is defined by that scariest monster is Frankenstein, then somebody walking into town with with like stitches on their face, you can demonize them very easily. Like, so maybe I don't know if it's the cart in front of the horse or not, but either way, it's like it's not great for like the legacy of this film. But I think considering that like the Murnau and Albin, like you said, were like aside from being interested in the occult or whatever, were like heavily like in the leftist zone, that maybe I don't know what that particular,
it's hard to say what the left was 100 years ago in Germany.
Exactly. It may not have had, but like it was not the right, because Nazism was in effect a reaction to the left and socialism in general.
Yeah, so. I think I don't know exactly what to make of it all. I think like if you look at this movie, you could make a very strong argument for it being like lousy with anti-Semitic imagery and shit like that. But knowing that the filmmakers, like the screenplay itself was written by a Jewish person, the director was a gay man, and the love of his life was Jewish, who I mentioned died in the war. Albin was not a Jewish man, but he was kicked out of Germany because he was an occultist. Like he was definitely, living on the periphery, so If Murnau hadn't died, he would have had to flee Germany too for being a gay man. So I doubt that they were like, full blown Nazis or anything like that. And also, not to mention that this movie was like very much based on a book, not written by either of them.
Right.
So
It's
you
tough
could
to say.
you could make the connections, but I thought it's not the crucifix is not used in this movie, but I found it to be interesting that the idea that Dracula would like shy away from the crucifix as being like something that could potentially kill him was interesting. Also, later on, when Nazism was like coming to be like a little more mainstream, Jewish people were referred to as like bloodsuckers or parasites, things or rats even, which are again featured very heavily in this movie. I don't know. There's connections that you could draw for sure, but I don't think that was the intent of the filmmakers necessarily.
Yeah.
You said there was no crucifix, but technically I think there was, and maybe you guys
Was
can
there?
clarify. Well, I mean, kind of. There was the scene where they're like, this is one of the most impactful and most like plague specific scenes I feel like in the whole movie, where they're bringing dead bodies, bringing corpses out of people's houses or whatever, and there's a guy going around marking crucifixes on doors. I don't remember I don't remember like if it said, or I don't know the context of that exactly. I'm assuming it has something that was done during plagues, but I don't know what it signifies.
I thought that it meant that there was a dead body that died of the plague inside.
I wasn't sure if it was that or if it was
not
supposed to protect
100%
people
sure
or
on that.
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't, because it also is like a little bit like fuck, I'm blanking on this. What is the original plague of the firstborn child dying?
Oh, with the blood, where they paint the blood on the door and it goes,
yeah, you paint lamb's blood.
Yeah,
like,
it was the
Moses a version of that.
10 plagues, yeah.
Anyway,
I forgot about that. Yeah, go.
That was the only. I think he was saying that was the
it.
only form of the crucifix.
I'm just like drawing
or whatever.
connections really, and I'm not sure exactly what to make of that. Like some of that context is lost on me because we're so far removed from that particular time, but it's weirdly like resonant in ways that maybe were intended and maybe weren't in today's society.
This was kind of the ending of this was kind of interesting to me, because even when we talk about Dracula, it's even when I was looking back at the book, the men do hunt him down in order to, I get Mina or Lucy, somebody is forced to suck his blood, and unless they kill him, she'll be cursed to be a vampire forever or whatever. But in this one, like, the woman saves the day. Like, she comes up with the whole plan and like, hey, I'm gonna do this. And I was like, hey, hell yeah.
Right. And also,
I had a pretty big problem with like the way they handled Ellen in this movie, because like she only exists to sacrifice herself and like save the men. Like that's all. Like she
did she die?
Like,
she's a beacon of purity.
That's
all. I believe she does die at the end, but like whenever her husband like leaves to go out on business, he has to like leave her in the care of like a wealthy ship owner. Like, she can't take care of herself.
Wow.
And she like dreams of these horrors and like, goes crazy and like almost kills herself by walking on the side of the balcony or whatever. And they gotta like call a doctor. And like, Hutter comes home with the book and he's like, I forbid you to read the book. It's too scary. And then she reads it against his will and ends up like sacrificing herself to save everybody, but it's only her beauty that can like overcome this evil. And like, it's very like of its time, I guess, but kind of like silly and not.
You can recontextualize it in our modern image though. Like Justin did, like, I kind of felt the same way. I was like, like she does nothing for most of the film. She's very much like, she's Mina minus an association with anybody except for her husband, which I don't know if that's how it is in the book or not. But, this is entirely her. She concocted this plan. Like, at the end, like, you think to yourself, well, I mean, she dreamed this up and she knows she's going to die doing it. And what was interesting to me is because when I think about that, or when I was thinking about that, I was trying to connect that to the plague thing. Like, I'm like, okay, so is this movie personifying the plague, death in general, just to give it a level of mortality that makes it murderable? How do you kill death?
Yeah,
there's only one way, and this movie tells you it's seduction, more or less. Like, you know.
Yeah, the title that pops up that explains it says like, deliverance is possible by no other means, by that an innocent maiden maketh the vampire heed not the first crowing of the cock. This done by the sacrifice of her own blood. It's like the innocent maiden. I don't know. It's just, I guess it's like tropey, you know, it's of
Oh yeah.
of
Yeah,
the day.
well, I guess even putting it in that context, I guess it goes back to even like human sacrifice of like, let's grab the virgin,
Yeah.
throw her in the volcano,
Yeah.
or sacrifice the blood,
Yeah.
you know, down that Aztecian pyramid so that everybody else can like have a good feast and crop and whatnot. You know,
kill what can't protect itself in order to protect everyone. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of
I
a
guess.
thing.
Okay, never mind. Well, I was thinking like, oh, she figured it out when everybody else was too fucking stupid, and she kind of like,
Yeah. To your point there, though, my favorite thing about this whole movie, which is like me watching it through like modern eyes, it was fucking cracking me up consistently.
And it
was
also
like this,
isn't penetrating you. That's a bummer.
Hutter like is reading this book that is so on the nose and explaining literally everything he needs to know, and it's like written in, it's like the most metal fucking lyrics you've ever read in your fucking life. And as he's reading these like really fucked up things like Nosferatu sprang forth from the seed of Belial, and then he's just like, oh, like he's so jauntily acting.
He tosses it aside. I love that.
Yeah, he spikes it on the ground. Fuck you, haha! Like the juxtaposition fucking was cracking me up the whole time I was watching this, which is obviously not the intention of the movie, but yeah.
No.
That was some of the negatives. I'm gonna like I'll point it in this is I would say that, you know, Nosferatu himself is so iconic and fucking cool looking, especially when they're able to play with him in the shadows, like use his figure and the lighting. But everything else, as Bob had mentioned before, they almost have to do it as like this theater play where everything has to be exaggerated. But fucking Butters was too hammy for me, man. It almost was like there was nobody to, I mean, I guess he's like the everyman, you follow along with him, but yeah, he's too damn naive, he's too damn fucking stupid to follow in a realistic way. And then the fucking the one knock or whatever is so goddamn insane, like to the nth degree. I was like, God damn.
You know,
and then there one more critique. The scene of this like kind of got me pretty good. The scene of Nosferatu carrying his own coffin through the city streets just felt very like not threatening to me, like he was moving furniture. So like he just strolling through the streets, he's got his coffin. I was like, this probably could have been cut.
It was more like, oh, that was kind of funny because it was like watching the Avengers walk around campus carrying heavy shit that you should, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you know, it seemed like I don't know, just kind of like quaint by today's standards. I wanted to talk about like Hutter, like to me, like that actor, I think that like you're right to say like, yeah, it was hammy and over the top and he was being a fool, but I think that his character was a fool. Like I think that's what his role was in this particular adaptation.
Yeah.
Because like the thing that I keep thinking of, aside from like spiking that book and like being so haughty and so like, you know, hot and cold on his theories about phantoms or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he fucking has this scene where he's like backed into a chair in front of the hearth with Orlok, and then it says like, and there he something like, and there he stayed until morning light, and it just shows him in the exact same position. Like you can just like without in a silent film, I could totally hear him doing the me, like the whole thing was there, and it was like, I don't know, I to me I was like, okay, so this guy is a fool. He's I'm trying to think of a parallel, but he's not meant to be like taken seriously. He's not like, and you know, honestly, every adaptation of Dracula I've seen makes him either like really tragic or tries to, like the Keanu of it all.
Yeah.
But
fight back
at the end of the day,
from
he
his
does,
wife.
like, very
and,
little. Yeah, exactly. At the end, like this one, like I think I like this better. I think I like him better as an not just unwitting, but also like unable to cope with the facts surrounding him and unable to like withdraw himself from it.
I guess if you look at it in that point, it could be interesting. And this could be, some mental gymnastics going on here. But if you look at the idea of it's kind of all his fault, that because of this foolish behavior, because of this naive behavior, that this man, this fool that you kind of want to be sympathetic to, but ultimately because of his narrow vision, released this plague on all of his neighbors. He secured the house. He was too stupid to put up any kind of defense, even after people warned him, gave him a book that told him fucking everything. He still just focused on himself and like, well, I'm gonna get my commission, I'm gonna do my thing, I'm gonna press forward with this jaunty attitude, and then he just fucks everyone, including his wife. Like, sacrifice, she has to sacrifice herself. I don't know, you could look at it in that way, I guess.
I mean, I don't think that it's necessarily his fault. I don't think it's necessarily his fault. I think he's conned by Knock. I think he is what Nazi Germany would, or is it Nazi Germany? Anyway, one of the many authoritarian regimes in history referred to them as helpful idiots, something along those lines. He was a helpful idiot to a monster who needed fresh blood, who needed fresh stomping grounds, and needed somebody to facilitate that because he has to move in a very specific way.
Yeah.
And he shined like his, wealth in front of the person, and they did come along. I think that works fine, and especially for a movie like this. And Knock is the one that I feel like doesn't have a lot to do besides send him off. Like, as much as I like watching him like go progressively more and more out of control, insane, like I also feel like he doesn't have a lot to do by the end of the story. He's another one that sort of like peters out.
He's the scapegoat. I think that's, he kind of sets the wheels in motion,
true.
And then also everybody blames him at the end. I think those are the two main purposes that he serves. I find that sort of like fascinating in his character and how the townsfolk react. They don't know what to do to save themselves, so they just blame it on the guy that's losing his mind. It's all his
perspective, a plague perspective, and the foreigner perspective, like from these like cultural fears perspective. That's very interesting. But I guess just from like a boots on ground, like storytelling perspective, I'm not sure what he's still doing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude's all up on roofs, climbing around shit. Like,
yeah, he is. He's
spry.
He is spry. He's got Krampus in him. I love like he's supposed to be eating flies, but it's so very obvious to our modern eyes that he's just like pulling nothing,
grabbing air.
Yeah, and just like, I don't know. I know that these guys are probably used to not filming, but like performing on stage where that sort of thing can pass just fine. But I don't know. Some of that stuff is like, just a matter of refining the medium.
Yeah, early.
That's why this whole like movie and this director in general is so important to the creation of movies, because like the look of this thing, and like between this and like the eventual Universal monsters and stuff, that really like directed the course of not just horror films but film in general. Like, what could be done. They made fucking Dracula disappear in this movie. They made him move at crazy speeds. They made him carry things that no man can carry, and like he turns into like all these things.
The shadows were really
the shadows, like yeah, absolutely, the shadows. And like it to me, it's like not, its influence is so deep, and so like it's first at so many things, at least to our knowledge, because of all the lost films or whatever, that like I don't know, it not only deserves its place in history, it's impressive if you look at it from that perspective. Like, it's impressive to think that somebody like could conceive of these kind of camera tricks with cameras that like could maybe film like a minute at a time or whatever it was.
Yeah, there was some cool shit going on. I will say it was weakest when I felt it was strong. Okay, I'll say I felt it was strongest when they were inside and able to manipulate the shadows to their whim, because that's where, or his outline or stuff like that, it looked the best to me. I thought it looked worse when they were trying to shoot outside, and obviously they have to shoot in the light, but they want to make it dark or whatever. It doesn't look, but they still tried to do some cool tricks where, you know, him loading up the coffins, you know, the I don't even know what these techniques are called, but the jittery shit. And then the same thing with the when they are driving the carriage like up to the
castle.
Mhm.
and then at one
Yeah.
point they even do like an invert or whatever, and it
Yeah,
shows like
or
where they're
they
going
invert the
into
color
his
palette.
realm or whatever. Yeah, so I mean, you're right, they were doing some fucking cool shit 100 years ago. And I was even going to ask, now I thought the lettering was too much on the version we got. I'm sure it looked different in because it was originally in German, but I was like, how do they even come up with fonts like this 100 years ago, like these prints, because they were so elaborate or whatever.
That has a lot to do with like the development of language and development of the alphabet and shit like that. Like,
No, yeah, I
that's-
just meant like the way even this guy's name, it was an H, but I was like, this is so elaborate and nuts looking. I was like, how do people even come up with this shit?
well, the church started with that sort of thing.
Okay.
Honestly, no, it's like, yeah,
Gotta
again,
go way
illuminated
back.
manuscripts and shit.
Yeah.
Like that's like literally like Gothic shit. That's called that for a reason. Gothic typesetting or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not typesetting. Gothic typography is like it was handwritten, and it was a way of like you making it uniform and almost like we would consider typing.
Yeah.
So that it's consistent throughout. Anyway, that's a whole like other thing.
Yeah.
We don't need to go down. But
I think we do need to land the plane here. Let's go ahead and rate this thing out of 5. If you guys have any other final points to make, please feel free to do so. Juice, kick us off. How do you feel about Nosferatu?
I'm just going through my notes here. Let me see just what I wrote down quick. The real estate agent is bonkers. Dude is so stoked to leave his house. I guess Butters. Hutter looks like Butter in the text. The wolf looks like a hyena. Anybody else notice that wolf?
oh yeah,
It is a
that was-
hyena.
Okay, I was like,
Yeah.
that's not a
That was
wolf. Okay, with the stripes and shit, look crazy. Okay, that is a hyena. That looked nuts. I love how shitty the castle looks. It's not like a
That's a real
Disney castle. Yeah, that we, and that's why I think I kind of liked it, because it's not the Disney castle where everybody's strolling around and everybody's, you know, I don't know, big chandeliers and all that shit. It's like, this looks kind of shitty. The guy who was watching over the wife had this crazy pipe that he was smoking out of. Did anybody else see that fucking
Yeah.
crazy pipe? She was
Yeah, the Hans
wild.
Landa pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 3 feet long, like 4 feet long. It's huge.
It's like almost touching the ground or
missed that.
whatever.
Yeah.
Nosferatu running around the city with the coffin is a little too much for me, a little ridiculous. The middle section kind of dragged its ass a scotch when he's on the boat. I thought that took a little longer than it probably needed to. Has some Halloween Kills vibes with the crazy man being the scapegoat. The shadow shot is amazing and fucking iconic. Overall, this movie, it's old. It's but it's so fucking influential. And even for something that almost copied Dracula as close as you can, still added its own elements that make it so iconic and stand outside just a Dracula film. It did a lot for the idea of a vampire. I think a lot of its influence is still felt today. Even the whole idea of the sunlight thing, that's prevalent. You know, that the animal influence and stuff did come from Dracula, but it was interesting to see the spread of the pestilence and like the disease and stuff. That I like that kind of take. I liked them making him fucking hideous and scary, those long ass fingers, and it's a very standout performance. But I would say his performance is his design and his movements and shadows is what sells this film. Everything else is just kind of like dressing. But I mean, I don't know, man, how you gonna knock this film? It's like, I mean, it's even more famous to me than Caligari. I think to touch on Bob's recommendation, I will say though that because I was so familiar with this, it was harder to focus because I was like, I could just come in and out of this. Like I know this story. Whereas I found things like I covered The Lodger, which is a silent Alfred Hitchcock film from from 27, and then Caligari. I found more, I was focused because I was like, I don't know this story. And also the world of Caligari was more whimsical and like immersive in an interesting kind of way. And the Lodger was about like Jack the Ripper. And I was like, oh, that's not a story I get a whole lot of. So I went kind of back and forth about like, is this hurting it because I'm so familiar with it? Or I don't know. But that's not like the film's fault. I mean, again, this dude wanted to make a Dracula film and he wasn't given the rights, and it kind of sucks like how it all plays out because you can't just like steal somebody's property. But ultimately I'm glad how it all worked out because this is so fucking iconic. But I mean, I don't know, what are you gonna give it, less than a 5? I don't think I can. I don't have like I mean, my nitpicky things aren't, oh, it looks ridiculous for Nosferatu to carry his coffin around. Like, is that really going to knock it a star? Like, not really, This just has too much weight and influence and amazing design and cool camera tricks and shit to give it the props that it needs. Could the music be better? Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to be a fool and give it less than a 5. So I'm setting you guys up. Bob,
Wow.
out of 5, what are you gonna give Nosferatu?
Fool coming in here. I mean, yeah, obviously this movie is insanely influential. Nosferatu's silhouette and the shadow play in this movie like really are iconic. The name Nosferatu itself is iconic. Yeah, Randy's got a little drawing he's showing that he made here on the YouTube.
Oh wait, show it again. One more. Ready?
I just been sketching.
No, nice.
Just not do anything, just drawing. I think a lot of my problems with this movie are really just like of the time. I think like we already mentioned the portrayal of Ellen. I think the like sped up sequences are extremely hammy. In a way that kind of distracts from the tone of the movie. I think Hutter's the way he like carries himself and is like way over the top hammy is just like it detracts from like the spookiness of the movie, I guess. The music was like pretty cool and like pretty engaging, but like I just wanted something like darker overall while watching this. I guess like that's the theme of my complaint, is like I just wanted it to be a little bit darker than it was. But they did a lot of really great stuff. I mean, Nosferatu's Count Orlok's like design, like the makeup and the prosthetics, like he is haunting. When he's on screen, he is extremely scary. Like if that dude just showed up at your front door, you'd be fucking terrified. I love the look of him. There was like a sequence where the townsfolk get a hold of the captain's log and they read it, and everything that they are reading that we're watching them read in real time, we have already seen happen. It just feels like filler, and I don't know why that choice was made necessarily. We already know what's going on. We don't need to read what we already saw. I liked that this movie it's Nosferatu, a symphony of horror. Like it's titled as a symphony, and the way the movie opens up is with a literal overture that like the symphony would play if you were watching it back in the day in live and in person. I like that they include that. It's I don't know, it's just like a cool way to like frame a movie that it was just one of the things of the day that I did enjoy, I guess. Nosferatu just basically being like the grim fucking reaper and like bringing death into a town, I think is just like a really cool way to portray that character. The metal ass text of that book is definitely my favorite part of the movie. I don't know, like some of the, I guess, not intentional anti-Semitic shit going on in this movie does distract me now that I'm aware of it. But like, I don't think that was the intention of the filmmaker. It's just sort of like on my mind now that I've been reading about it. I don't know. This movie is, it's iconic. Its name rings out. It influenced dozens, hundreds of other movies that came after it. And I think really for that reason alone, I'll not be a fool today and give this a 5. So
I saved
Randy,
you, Bob. Saved you from yourself.
Randy, let's see
Setting
if
that bar.
Justin. See if
Just
Justin
setting
can
a
save us all.
trap. Yeah. So, I've been sitting here and thinking about this and drawing.
No,
And I was thinking to myself, like, the iconic look of this thing, its place in history, all that stuff. Like, there are a few things that I love about this movie. One is its historical context and its multiple ways you can read it, its flexibility to that. And I think that actually kind of speaks to a broader thing that I love about this. I almost think that, like, the value of this movie isn't necessarily involved with the action of watching it. It's about what proliferates because of it. It's about the creativity that it inspires in people, and the flexibility it has to say different things to different people. Like, not only is this movie very influential as a movie, as a horror film, as a vampire film, as all those things, it's influential in visual arts and, like, pressing, like, the idea that this is an open source story. You know what I mean? Like, they made the story of Dracula open source, and they made this, like, iconic visual open source. They didn't make it that way, obviously, because the copyright just ran out before, Disney got their clutches in that. But, like, I don't know. There's something about that. Like, I'm a big believer in the idea that, like, every creative idea is built on something. It's what they say in that documentary, Everything is a Remix, is that it's like you're remixing elements. The Count Orlok, Nosferatu, Dracula in general, like, this is something that's been, like, remixed and reused, and it's a cultural touchstone. You could criticize it, but it's kind of like criticizing, like, the Bible. You can, but it's not what's interesting about the Bible. What's interesting about the Bible is its history, its legacy, its influence, and what you can derive from it. And so many people derive different things from this movie, but most what they derive is, man, this is eerie. This feels scary. This feels like I'm participating in an ancient form of horror movie. And it's like reading a Necronomicon. It's not, again, so, like, the act of, like, it's hard to criticize this as a normal movie. It's not. It's like, it'd be like if somebody, like, wrote a review of the Bible. It really is. To me, it doesn't make sense. It's not, who would even bother? Like, what's interesting is the dissection and the creation that comes from that. I love that this movie is itself sort of remixing things, like George Méliès and the French illusionist / director, like, was making, like, From the Earth to the Moon 50 years before this. Like, this is, like, some of these camera tricks are things that had been sort of, like, built and established by other people, but they were not necessarily, at least to my knowledge, because of my limited knowledge and also limited, stuff from that era, wasn't combined with visual arts know-how in the way that this does. The play of shadows, the chiaroscuro, the contrast, like, the blocking, all that shit. Like, not all of it's, like, something that I would look at today and be like, wow, how cutting edge or how amazing. But, like, it follows the rules of visual arts, and, like, that's, like, the principles of art are there, while also using camera tricks and, like, technical know-how. Like, it's really pushing the medium, man. I could critique it on the level you guys, have tried, have brought up, and, but I don't know that there's a whole lot of value to doing that besides, more thinking through of ideas. It just doesn't make sense to me. So, like, to me, this is a 5-star film on a number of levels, but it's just so fucking vital and such a great example of just art. Like, the very concept of art and creativity is kind of wrapped up in this movie to me. And I think that's like emboldened by the fact that it's open source. I can make a t-shirt of this today, as I'm inspired as I am by it. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that I think is sorely missing from a lot of modern stuff, because copyrights are such, IPs are such, like, we sit here and we dog this movie a little bit for ripping off Bram Stoker, but that's how creativity works, man. You don't make things in a vacuum. You don't have to follow it 1-to-1, so it's got its fault for that. But this is like this is clearly a distinctive thing at the same time. So I don't know. All that shit, those concepts are what interest me about this movie more than anything else. That and the iconic visuals. So it's a 5-star movie. I don't want to dig into a world where this isn't a 5-star movie.
Don't even want to live in a world where Nosferatu doesn't
Thank
catch
God
5
none of us
stars.
were fools.
Hallelujah.
I was
For
going to
one,
give it a 1. There's not one explosion.
Where were the Yavos?
Where's the transformer? I ask you.
Where's the rats never do transform into Nosferatu. Well, that's obviously a 5-star aggregate from the Straight Chilling crew. Let's jump over into a Rotten Tomatoes segment, see if anybody's a fool over there.
Certified fresh to death.
I mean, it's always a safe assumption every batch will have a couple. But welcome to the Rotten Tomatoes segment, in which I'm going to have these two gents guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate scores are on RottenTomatoes.com, and that's both critics and users. Again, this is the aggregate, so the percentage of critics who found it to be a good movie, or at least better than a certain threshold. I don't even know what that threshold is. I should probably learn that after years of doing this segment. Yeah, anyway, there are 70 critic reviews counted for this film. I'm imagining they're not of the time, probably more recent. We'll start with Bob today. Bob, where do you think the critics, those 70 critics, lie on this aggregate scale?
You know, I wonder if this is gonna be 100. I don't know. Like, there's got to be at least like one like doofus contrarian out there. At least one, I guess. It's like, oh, it's not that good. I'll give me like a 98, I guess.
98 degrees. Okay, Soju.
Yeah.
How about you?
I think this is going to be a game of inches, and so you're just kind of hoping for a ring-a-ding here. So I'm gonna guess my favorite sexual position in the 96, please.
96.
Swerve.
All right. Butt to scalp, ladies.
You pick me up, baby.
The backwards man, the backwards man, the backwards man, the backwards man. I can walk backwards fast as you can. I can walk backwards fast as you can.
All right. Well, we have a very rare situation indeed. This is split right down the goddamn middle. It is a 97%.
Oh, shit.
Damn.
Split to that baby in
Nice.
twain.
That happened like a few months
Hell's
ago or
skeet,
something, where we had a
maybe?
weird skeet.
Yeah. Skeet.
Had to work extra hard to make that happen.
Skeet.
All right, you
Sweet.
guys circle jerk to success. Congrats.
All right. Hey, Bob.
Finally.
Look at that.
Finally.
I think that's our second tie. We hit a crazy one, like
I
even
think so,
more
yeah.
crazy than that.
It was, yeah, it was definitely more crazy than this.
Band name Circle Jerk Success.
I mean, the circle jerks are already there, but
Bob, come on.
Success.
25,000 plus audience scores are to be aggregated here. So let's start with Justin. Out of those 25,000, what percentage do you think called this a positive film?
It's got to be high, but I think it being old and a silent film might drop it to weird levels. So I'll say something like an 85.
85 percentile. Bob?
Justin thinks there are roughly 5,000 fools rating this.
That's
On
a
Rotten
low
Tomatoes.
ball.
Dude, that was some quick math, Bob.
I'm a mathematician, obviously. I'm gonna go
Obvious.
on the higher end. I think that's safer. Give me the Project 86, please.
Ooh. Well, I think that the project did you right. This is 87%.
Oh God, we were
87.
so
Bob,
Nice.
Damn, we were
you
so
are circling that drain all night.
Circling the jerk.
Oh, so I was like kind of correct with my math there, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Just a little too
yeah.
low.
You know, it's tough. This is a little bit of a shooting fish in a barrel one because this is such a beloved film on so many levels.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys, your guts led you right, especially with the audience score. This is like,
Whoa.
yeah, well done.
I
The
love
critics
my
consensus.
Project 86 never let you down, huh, Bob?
Never once did.
All right.
This is the critics' consensus. One of the silent era's most influential masterpieces. Nosferatu's eerie gothic feel and chilling performance from Max Schreck as the vampire set the template for horror films that followed. I think that's all very easy
I
to
still
agree
need
with.
to watch that fucking movie with Willem Dafoe.
You really do. Shadow of the Vampire.
Yeah.
I watched that like in high school, and it was way over my head at the time. I was like, what is this?
Now that I've watched both the Nosferatus, I need to get on that.
Very good.
Gotta get the three-peat. Eggers, he's coming. All right, here's a negative review just for the fun of it. It's the sort of thing one could watch at midnight without its having much effect upon one's slumbering hours. Was this written by like a 1920s oil baron? What the fuck?
Slumbering
hours. It is the sort of thing one could watch at midnight without having much effect on one's slumbering hours. Sure. Okay.
Bring me a bowl of warm milk, boy.
Boy. Ooh, okay, Bob. All right.
How young is that boy, Bob?
He's got a young boy.
He's 14. He's always 14. Apparently. Allegedly.
Okay,
14 is
somebody.
the old 17.
Hey, Justin, I found a fool.
Oh, here we
Here
go.
we go. Nosferatu earns its place in the cinematic archives, but its accessibility to modern viewers is surely all but lost. Obviously not, dude. 87%. That's pretty good for
but
any movie.
lost. Yeah, I mean,
Sorry,
they're just
you're the fool.
Yeah, I mean, even I don't know. One thing I always regret, but I try to keep it pure, is when I watch these movies, I'm mostly watching them for the first time for this podcast. And I always try to be like, I want to watch it as close as I can to how people are watching it. And so I never watch them with the cool, crazy soundtracks, but I always want to. I'm always like, man, I wish I didn't have such a code. I wish I wasn't a man of principle.
Maybe that's a live stream opportunity.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
It's public domain. It's the one thing we do that can't fuck us over.
That's true.
The only thing.
The only
You get that
thing.
DJ Spooky cut, Bob.
Ooh. All right. Yeah, that's the Rotten Tomatoes segment, guys. Well done.
Sweet. All right. I do have some more trivia. Let's go ahead and jump into it.
It's totally time for trivia.
I didn't think there'd be much trivia on this film, Bob.
Yeah, I know it's new. It's pretty fresh, so people haven't had much time to
This
dig.
is such an unknown film.
Yeah.
Yeah. The boat that transports Count Orlok is called the Impusa, which is a reference to Greek mythology. The Impusa is a type of shape-shifting phantom in Greek legends, always feminine. It was thought to prey on young men for seduction and for food, and in some versions craved the blood of its victims. So
Oh God, yes, come with me.
thematic.
Wow.
Come with me. This I thought was really fucking interesting.
That didn't need emphasis.
You're welcome. The Cactice and Orava castles, which I'm probably mispronouncing, were both used as locations for Orlok's castle. Cactice, which appears in the last shot of the movie, was notably the residence and later prison of the Hungarian Countess Elizabeth Bathory, who famously was accused of torturing and killing hundreds of girls and women between 1590 and 1610. She also supposedly used their blood as an attempt to retain youth. It was also speculated that Bathory was inspiration for Bram Stoker's character of Dracula. So it's a bit of a full circle aspect there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Satan must be stopped at every opportunity.
You never heard of her, Randy? You seem quite surprised.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of that.
Really? Oh, wow. Yeah, it's pretty famous. Yeah.
Bathed in the blood
That's
of
shocking to me.
Yeah, she thought it like kept her young. And
I mean, I've heard that
idea of,
trope,
like,
but I don't know
Yeah.
this person.
Yeah, and Athor, I think that's what the band is named after. Bathory, right? Is it the same
don't know the
spelling,
band.
Bob?
I don't really know that band.
Oh, we talked about it in our Hard With Us episode. What was that
Ooh,
called?
blowing up your
The
spot.
metal
Oh, Lords of Chaos.
Lords of Chaos.
Oh, I
Gotcha.
didn't remember that.
Yeah, I forgot about that too.
But,
yeah, well, then I'm sure they're named after her. Yeah.
But yeah, she's a, like
Nosferatu.
I think that's the idea, honestly, of where vampires come from, is this lady who thought that she could retain youth through blood.
I maybe did hear this sometime, but I wouldn't have
Yeah.
recognized that name. What's the name?
Bathory.
Elizabeth Bathory.
Liz Bathory.
Blood is life. So the director followed the screenplay very carefully, following handwritten instructions on camera positioning, lighting, and various related matters. Nevertheless, Murnau completely rewrote 12 pages of the script. There was text missing from his director's working script, which concerned the last scene of the film, in which Ellen sacrifices herself and the vampire dies in the first rays of the sun. Murnau prepared carefully. There were sketches that were to correspond exactly to each film scene, and he even went as far as to use a metronome to control the pace of the acting. That is nuts.
That is
Wow.
nuts. Damn.
Jesus.
Nosferatu.
Act faster.
Slower, faster.
He definitely never said faster once in this.
He's like fucking Simmons in that drum movie.
Right. My
Faster,
tempo.
bitch.
My
Faster.
tempo.
Yeah. Not quite my tempo.
Right. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
Not any more fun today. I don't think I'm going to be able to take it.
Nosferatu premiered on the 4th of March, 1922, 3 days ago, in the Marmersaal of the Berlin Zoological Gardens. This was planned as a very large society sort of evening entitled Das Fest des Nosferatu. And guests were asked to arrive dressed in Biedermeier costumes. So it was a giant ass costume party, which sounds great. The cinema premiere itself took place on the 15th of March, 1922 at Berlin's Primus Palace. But the big preview at the Zoological Gardens that they had apparently cost as much money as the film's budget. So it was like a huge blowout party
Holy
kind of
shit.
situation. Yeah. How fucking cool would it have been to be there? Like a costume party blowout, the first people
Dude.
ever to watch Nosferatu.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Would go back
that
in
would be
time for
fucking
that.
spectacular.
We already mentioned this. Nosferatu was the first film to show a vampire dying from exposure to sunlight instead of just being injured or slowed down by sunlight, as it was written in the book as well. I think so. Yeah, this is actually pretty interesting too. Actually, so producer Alvin Grau, I guess he obviously the movie's based on the novel Dracula, but also loosely based. He loosely based the story on this tale that a Serbian farmer relayed to him while he was in World War I about the farmer's his father died, and then he buried him in the field of his farm, and then saw him rise from the grave and walk around, just walk off, which is probably complete bullshit for but I guess influenced the movie on some level anyways.
Bob's a non-believer over here.
I don't know, people. That's
on.
why they put in the bell. Sometimes they used to bury people and they weren't dead. Maybe the guy just wasn't dead. He just said, that piece of shit son of mine trying to take all my shit.
Saved by the bell. Yeah, so that I think everything else I already mentioned, so we can go ahead and conclude our trivia for this evening.
All right.
That of course takes us to the question that's been on
my
everybody's minds. Who is the cooter of the week?
Straight chillin'. Gooder of the week.
Juice, what's a cooter and why do we hunt them?
Cooter is a character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter, and we want the cooter with the most points. The 5 points of cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, are we going to nail an iconic character for being a cooter this week? Can we start off with Shaboy Count Warlock.
I don't know
Well,
if
like
there's anywhere else you could travel.
Warlock.
Wow. Wow.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, okay, if you want to go that route. So
Mhm.
manipulation. I think he's got it. for that
Yep,
one.
he's got manipulation. He's manipulating Renfield kind of, and he also uses him, I guess, as like a scapegoat. But I mean, he manipulates Butters as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's who I was thinking of. Actually, you're right though. He manipulates Knox / Renfield as well.
Renfield and Butters, the characters that are definitely in this movie.
Yep. So he's got that. Can we give him look and attire? Malort, this dude is tore up.
Yeah,
Or
I
a little
suppose
fella.
so. I mean,
Yeah.
he looks good. You know, he's got his ears are nice and pointy. His snout's probably pretty wet. And
I love
that's a
how he
good sign
tried
for
to
health.
he tries to disguise himself when he's, driving the old carriage or whatever, but he's just so fucked up that there's no hiding
Yeah.
how fucked up he is.
There's
Or
one
even
scene-
honestly, when he's chilling with them, kind of like at the table, he kind of even still tries to look a little more normally until he just goes full garb and he's lurking in the doorway or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But
He looks as about as good as a guy can that like only hangs out with rats and dirt. Like
well,
yeah,
that's not good.
it's
It
not
can
great.
get worse, I suppose.
Yeah.
No, I mean, to me, like there's like one shot in this movie that I find him to be like two actually, or he's actually kind of hilarious to me. There's one where he's like rising from beneath the decks in the ship, and he's just kind of got this look on his face, like I'm back, bitches. Get ready for the show. And then there's one scene towards the end where this is equal parts creepy. I can understand why somebody would find this creepy, but I find it kind of hilarious where he's looking out the window the whole time at Ellen, and then she basically beckons him over and he starts going away from the window, but he's still looking at her, and he's doing like the Thriller as he walks out, but he never breaks eye contact. It's just so funny to me that he's just like, okay, I'm coming.
Peace.
I don't know. Those are really funny. But yeah, overall he's a good fit for look and attire for sure. I don't know that he hits anything else really.
Manipulation.
Maybe patheticness. I mean, he's pretty on top of shit, except that he gets
I think
seduced,
he's
which is
pretty
kind of
care-
like Dracula's
yeah.
whole deal.
But also, I don't know. What about smug arrogance? It's hard too because I also watched the 70s one where he's actually speaking, and he does give some kind of like monologue speeches that I would say are arrogant, but it's hard for me to remember what was included in the original.
He does
Right.
he rolls into town and he's buying up a bunch of land and just kills everybody there and he lives there. I don't know if that's like
I see
arrogance.
arrogant on the ship. Doesn't he do something with the captain that's kind of fucked up and arrogant?
Not that I can remember, but
Doesn't he like keep him alive barely so he can like drive the ship or something?
I
No,
don't
the
think he does
captain
that, no.
ties
No.
himself to the wheel on his own
Okay.
accord.
Okay, never mind.
And then gets drained. Yeah.
It's drained. Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know, man. Like it's like, the thing is, like his performance is great because it's so disconnected from humanity.
Yeah.
But that also means he's disconnected from many of these points. Like I just don't see patheticness.
True.
or
We don't think
arrogance
it's
in
sexual
him.
deviance for him to creep on the wife and suck her dry.
He
I
does
think he's
say
creeping on anybody that wants a piece.
he does say like, "Oh, your wife has a lovely, neck."
neck. Dude, that shit made me think of The Simpsons, where did everybody wash their neck like Mr. Burns asked?
He does.
That's pretty good.
Whenever
That's the
Hutter
one-
first,
Go on.
whenever Hutter first gets to his castle, he says something along the lines of like, when Hutter wants to go to bed, he's like, "But can't we stay together a little bit longer?" Like
That's true.
he's like a little creepy in like a sexy time way.
Yeah.
Just a little bit longer. Sorry, I'm going to the Frankie Valley here. If something, I don't know. But yeah, I just don't see it with these other things. Like to me, like sexual
Yeah.
deviancy. Nah, I mean, there's nothing sexual about what he's doing. He's just predating for sustenance. I don't see him as a sexual being. I
Yeah.
don't think he sees himself as a sexual being. So I just don't see him as a.
For
cooter.
some
And
reason,
I-
though, it was the woman's beauty that helped mesmerize him. So, I mean, even the book says, like, oh, she has to be beautiful and pure. And that's what leads to his downfall. I mean, he's been feeding on people for however long. And just because this beautiful woman lets him.
He couldn't
guess.
handle that.
I mean, maybe that's a little more pathetic than sexual deviant, maybe. But like, I think that's a
Maybe.
pretty low ranking
He
on
didn't-
the. It barely moves the needle.
He didn't even get to see her back or anything that follows thereafter.
Also, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it a little pathetic? Hang on. To touch on that, is it a little pathetic that you should know that the sun will kill you? You have existed for a long time and you can't time your kill to where you feed on this woman and get out because she's so
His
beautiful
reaction
that the
speed is
sun just-
pathetic.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Yeah.
sloth movement. Oh, fuck.
The sun.
Well, he was like mesmerized by her. Like he ignored the first crow of the cock, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he just,
Is that, is that pathetic?
that's one hell of a neck, man. Let me tell you.
It's a pretty good neck. Actually, that's the one thing I do remember from Shadow of the Vampire is they show them filming that scene, and Defoe's version of Orlok is like, she has a great bosom. And then Murnau's like, it's great. Give the lip readers a thrill. It was really funny.
The lip
The
readers.
lip readers.
All right, give the lip readers a thrill. And it's
Ra-
like Malkovich voice. That's a terrible Malkovich, but it was fun.
Randy, cycle your mic. I think it peaked out.
Freaking out on you. Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel super strongly about convicting Nosferatu personally. I think I've kind of been
All
raised.
right. All right.
I just don't see anybody in this movie as like
yeah.
fleshed out enough besides maybe him.
As a cooter hunter, I was hoping we could get this iconic character, but we'll let him slide.
You know, sometimes you just can't get one for the.
I wanted that trophy, you know.
Yeah.
Hail,
You're just missing out.
hail Ratu.
You wanted a trophy cooter for your own?
Yeah.
Oh, juice. All right. Well, let's
Shoes.
go
Oh,
ahead and
shoes.
let's roll into what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Ray and Do, what you been watching?
I haven't had a ton of time to watch things. I did get to go to a live performance by one of my favorite artists, Laura Stevenson. I got into playing Zelda Ocarina of Time again on the Switch 64 emulator thing.
Okay.
I watched Jackass 3.5 for the first time. I've never seen that. It was very enjoyable, or I didn't remember seeing it. There were a few things on there that I'm pretty sure I'd seen maybe on YouTube or something. But for the
Didn't
most
y'all
part,
say that
it
was pretty
unfamiliar.
much its own movie? Just
Oh, it is. It's
uncut
like
stunts?
Yeah.
it's just cut stunts with a little bit of like interview coverage
Yeah,
as well
okay,
from people
I see.
after the fact.
I gotcha.
And it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Hmm.
It's fucking that $7 every Jackass movie DVD was one of the best purchases I've ever made.
Damn, yeah.
I watched the first 2 episodes of Righteous Gemstones. I'd seen the first episode already years ago, but I just didn't keep with it. But Becky and I started the first 2, and hopefully we'll make some progress into that because we are enjoying it. It's just, you know, we're not quite immersed in the world enough to be self-sustaining in terms of interest. And also, I've just been too busy to even continue going this week after the first 2. And then last, I watched a show on HBO, which I had not heard of, and it was total impulse watch. But it does kind of speak to my interest. It's a mostly stop motion animated film or show, rather, series of like 10 to 15 minute episodes that are fully and completely like dream logic nonsense. And it's like kind of terrifying, but also like darkly funny at the same time. It's like, you know, it'll just follow weird avenues. The thing is, like, it's so weird that I can't remember an example of what I'm talking about. I watched like 2 or 3 episodes of this thing, and it's just like people's teeth become sentient. That's sort of like crazy shit, like just crazy shit. And like it's not an actual real story as far as I can tell. It's just like following a train of thought. So whenever like something else shiny shows up, like, oh, there's a like they mention a side character, and then rather than continue with the story, they'll just like talk about the side character and then the side character and like all kinds of things like that. And it's animated beautifully, and it's just very strange. And it's called, oh, I didn't tell you the title. It's called The Shivering Truth. And I don't know really who made it or anything like that. It's on HBO Max. I don't know where it originally came from, if it's an HBO production or what. I can't remember. I don't think so. But yeah, it's very strange. And I like it, but I also don't know what to say about it. It's just kind of one of those things where I would recommend checking it out and seeing if it's for you.
That sounds nuts.
Weird. Yeah.
It's very weird.
All right. Juice, what you been watching?
Dude, it is the year of the bat because I watched The Batman in theaters. That movie's 3 hours long, which is just so long. But dude, it's good. It's really good. I know the whole idea of like superhero fatigue and everything like that. Like I get it, but I mean, to be fair, like Matt Reeves, like I watched I think most of his Planet of the Apes films and was always surprised by those too. You know, it's not anything I like care too much about, but as I watched them, I'd be like, damn, actually these are pretty good movies. And then kind of, you know, Robert Pattinson has been having a kind of a revival where like, hey, this dude's actually a good actor. So I mean, kind of combining these two things, it's unlike any of the Batman films that have like been filmed before. It's much more like noir based. I feel like it's much more kind of true to a comics Batman. It's focused more on the kind of mystery aspect, him being a detective. The visuals are amazing, the designs are really cool. So I think I mean, it shouldn't be 3 hours long, but it's good. I had a fun time with it. So I watched that. As I mentioned before, I watched the 1979, I believe, Nosferatu the Vampire, which Bob has mentioned several times before. Me and Randy started it, and then so I finally watched it since we were covering this time. That movie was great. It was I was so impressed at how they were able to take Nosferatu and make it again in the 70s with its own kind of elements, but like with the color and the same kind of design. But this dude's talking, he's got the crazy teeth, and I was thinking, like, how is this guy able to talk so clean with these crazy? The design
Good
is
question.
amazing.
Yeah.
The colors, it's so creepy and dark. They go back to the they just call him Dracula though, which I don't know, kind of struck me weird. I was like, if you're gonna do Nosferatu, do Nosferatu, which is kind of how I'm feeling about Eggers going forward. So I don't know, we'll see how that kind of pans out, but I enjoyed it. That was a good recommendation, Bob. So I watched that. I've been watching over here. Disney Plus has weird things. I mentioned before where they have Shyamalan. They have Bob's Burgers. I've been watching that. So for some reason, Disney Plus has Bob Burgers in Korea. And
Fox show, isn't it?
huh?
It's a
Yeah,
Fox show, so.
I think or FX. Yeah, something. Yeah, I don't know why they got it, but they do. Like all the Shyamalan movies.
Disney owns Fox.
Oh shit. Oh, they do. Oh, yeah. Okay. Maybe that's, I don't know. I never
I
noticed.
think that's why, but like Bob's Burgers was probably already on license to Netflix or whoever here. That's what a lot of that shit probably is.
Okay. Could be. Okay. That does make, I forgot that they did that huge purchase. Yeah. Yeah. Cause Simpsons is on there. That's right. And Community. So I've been flipping between Bob's Burgers and Community, which Community, God, I've watched like 5 or 6 times now at this point. But Randy did make the recommendation of last time of being able to skip 4. I've never gone to like 5 and 6 because 4 gets so bad. So maybe this time I'll actually, get there.
Give it a shot. I think that like 5 is pretty good. I think 6 is as good as maybe season 3.
Okay.
To me.
So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But that's all I've been watching. Robert, what you been watching, Hollywood Bob?
I watched the majority of the Batman today. But then I I got called into work, and I don't know how it ended.
From the
Oh, that
theater.
From the
sucks
theater,
so
yeah.
Oh no, that
missed-
sucks.
I missed
Oh.
probably the last 20 to 30 minutes, something
Ooh,
along
okay.
those
So that's the
lines.
amount you wish they had trimmed the film.
Yes, exactly. And then I would have been able to watch the end. I was
Why
like,
didn't they tailor to my schedule?
right. I was super engaged though, like
Yeah.
really, really enjoying my time with it, and was very bummed that I couldn't fucking finish it.
That sucks.
I'll try and finish it at some point, I guess.
I'm
I thought
glad
the
you liked
cast-
it.
Yeah, I thought the cast was great. Everybody was cast like really, really well. The performances were great. It's a slow moving noir, like detective style Batman, like you said, Juice. And like I enjoyed the slow pace of it, to be honest. I was like really like settled in and like enjoyed like watching the clues come to fruition and stuff. And it also had like some like very specific horror influences in it, but I won't mention those. I know it's a brand new movie, people don't want spoilers and stuff. But I saw some horror stuff in there for sure.
Well, there's one specifically that everyone has mentioned that's in the promotional stuff of. I think we could of the
Don't
Zodiac.
say it because I okay, never
Oh,
mind.
okay, never mind. Sorry.
I hadn't.
That's
heard
what I
that.
was not gonna say.
Oh,
But
okay.
I-
Well, like
I-
literally like the promo of it, but I didn't realize. Sorry, that Randy. But they said like yes,
It's all
it's
good.
based off what.
I'm also not planning to see it anytime soon. So
Well, yeah. Apparently, there's somebody saw the Zodiac or something, and there's a sketch of him, and they just took that sketch and they're like, "Yep, this is our guy."
there you go.
Well, yeah. So there's
Sorry
some-
about that.
Yeah, there's some stuff in there that's pretty interesting. Other than that, I watched Studio 666, which is that Foo Fighters horror comedy that came out about a week ago. I had a lot of fun with it. Dave Grohl, unsurprisingly, is captivating on screen. He's very like energetic and shit. Some of his other band members might not be as captivating as he is, but I think they bring like a certain like flair of their own that like makes the movie interesting. They're just not like amazing actors necessarily. There's a handful of like really great cameos though that help like fill the movie out, and there's some other roles that were just full on played by like comedic actors. So it's like not just the band in this movie. There's definitely some other characters that help like fill it out some. They go like full like balls to the walls gore in this movie, like really no holds barred. I really enjoyed that. I really dug the music in it. They're like, trying to write a new record in this house that's haunted and a bunch of terrible shit happened in it. And the music that they're creating is like way heavier than a typical Foo Fighters record. And it's like badass.
Cool.
Wow.
That's awesome. I like that aspect.
Yeah. And apparently it was legitimately written and performed by the Foo Fighters. And they released one song on Spotify and probably everywhere else under the name Dream Widow. So if you want to get like a little taste of what the music sounds like in the movie, you can check that out. And Dave Grohl was saying like he's just going to record a whole record under that moniker, and it's just going to be like heavy ass music.
Huh.
So I'm excited for that.
That's cool.
One thing that sold me on the concept of that film is just like watching that Hot Ones with Dave Grohl, where he was said that it was like his contextualization of it, I think to me totally sold it for me. Like that I do want to check this movie out, maybe not in theaters, but eventually, where it's like they set out to make a silly little movie just for fun. And then at the end, they're like, "Oh my God, this is like a budgeted movie. Like this is we went way further than we thought." And I love that. I think that's like,
cool,
yeah. I think that's like, I mean, we're sitting here on this podcast, kind of relatable in some ways.
What did we get ourselves into?
Yeah.
I recommend it. It's a fun ass movie. Like go in it thinking you're gonna have a good time, and I think you will. That's
Is it a
really
romp though?
It's a fun little romp. That's exactly what it is.
I got him to say it. Guys.
Also,
Romp,
the theme music for the opening title sequence was written by John Carpenter, and it fucking slaps.
That's fucking awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, good stuff. Check that shit out. That's really all I've been watching this week. Couple new releases for you there.
What it must be like to be like on the such a wealthy status in the world that you can just be like, just for fun, we're gonna put together a movie with John Carpenter scoring it, and Jeff Green's gonna be in it.
No big deal. No big deal.
Just for fun.
Kerry King, the dude from Slayer, he's got like a little tiny little role in it too. There's like, Dave's got friends, I guess. Yeah, so we it takes us to our hotline screams, of which we do not have any voicemails this week. But if you guys are listening and would like to call in and leave us a voicemail for next show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. Do you guys have any prompts you want to throw out for next week?
What's your favorite iteration of a vampire? Do you like them sexy and clean and whatnot, living the high life, or do you like them dirty and nasty and lurking in the shadows?
I like me a Tom Waits vampire.
Yeah. I don't know. It's the year the vampire. We've already covered a couple now, and different kind of vibes and iterations. You know, we got a vampire love story where she was, you know, pretty cute and everything. And I don't know what
cute.
Yeah, what kind of kind of vampires are you into? Super cute.
Super cute.
Damn.
Yes, you did.
Shouts out, dude. Should we do shouts outs to Heidelberg for
oh yeah, we should.
Yes, we should.
I think we should, dude. We have this second straight chilling tattoo. We need to throw that shit up on like the socials.
Yeah, if he's cool with it. Yeah,
I'll check in with them and see. But yeah,
he'll hear this and know that we're asking. Find us, I'm sure.
Heidelberg hashtag hard with us. He's been around for a long time doing the U picks, but also he's got his own podcast now over on Cut Above, which we've all featured on now at this point. But he got the second ever straight chilling tattoo. Damn.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So
there's
if
two
you
people
also want to get a tattoo, you're in good company.
Two people.
You want the mark of the
logo.
beast? We can provide.
Yeah.
Two people have our logo tattooed on their bodies permanently, and none of those two people are us on the show.
Yeah, and it's the new logo too from our launch from just last year.
Yeah. Could you imagine if they do the old logo? Ooh.
And we changed it? We're not using this crap anymore.
We can't really change it again, can we? Randy did some fine. Randy did some fine design work, so there's no need to change it anyways. The shit looks
designed to last, because I do not want to do that shit again.
Every 100 episodes, gotta switch it up.
Oh
You're
God.
right.
I can't even churn out a t-shirt.
God.
Some pain in my sides.
Yeah.
Super cute.
Super cute. Super cute.
Super cute.
So
yeah.
So right.
That's a good looking neck. Call in and let us know how you like your vampire movies. Let us know what some of your favorite vampire movies are. Also, call in and let us know if you're going to get our shit tattooed on your body.
Yeah, where do you want your straight chilling tattoo?
Or do we get to pick? Forehead.
Always on the butt.
God damn.
On the buttocks.
Do people get tattoos in their ear? Like little ear tattoos?
I don't know.
Like inside?
Yeah. No, like on the outside, and like under the ridge, probably.
Okay.
Not in the drum. Yeah.
On the drum.
No, we tattoo people's eardrums every week, and
why would you do that?
You asked.
Why would they hypothetically do this thing that I don't even know that they can do?
What a bunch of fools. That's it for this week. We did it. We tackled another classic. We're going to be back next week with a brand new show. As always, we're going to be talking about a new release. This is exclusively on Hulu. The movie is called Fresh. Slam your eyeballs into that. Get ready for next week's show. It's got one of the Avengers in it. Sebastian Stan, is that his name? I think that's his name.
Yeah.
The Winter Soldier. Yeah. Check out Fresh. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join in on the daily Slack channel conversations, just hit us up on one of those social media outlets and I'll send you a link so you can do so. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Nosferatu!